Okay, gentlemen, you're live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 19th, 2022 Commissioners Meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, gentlemen, the first thing we have on our agenda are the minutes. Do we have any additions, corrections?
I do not.
Okay.
Either. I move to approve the minutes for the Board of County Commissioners for April 12th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, April 12th, 2022 as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next thing we have is our planning. Dawn and Sherry Jane, come on down. Good morning.
Good morning. So item number one, they're still trying to work with the property owner to get the signature. So they're gonna hold off on that one for today. So we can move on to item two, which is for the Redder application.
So is that moved to just to be determined date? It's not a,
Yeah, they think probably by next week. One problem is one resident lives out of town,
okay,
but I let them know if they can get them the document, get them to sign it, send it back with an email from that resident, that would be good enough to suffice having it notarized, because we've got the email chain and the signed document. The other one, the person lives here, works over in Mancos, and they just haven't got her signature and had it notarized.
okay. So just TBD. All right, thanks.
But that way we would have a paper trail that neither one of them had an issue with it. Yeah, I would think by next week, but I guess it just depends on how hard they pursue it.
Okay, item number two then.
Item number two is the Adam and Shelly Redder. They have an exemption application. You wanna bring that up, Shaq?
Redder? I have item number two as a Mylar signature.
So they own 200 plus acres just east of Cortez. Actually, the access to Billy Good's pit goes through their property. So they have a sliver of property that extends south of Highway 160. So it's 2.4 acres, 2.42 acres. You can go to the map, Shaq, just for reference. So per the state statutes exemption regulations, because that highway cuts off that piece of property, they're applying to have that exempted and create an individual parcel. CDOT does or has given them an access permit.
For the south side?
They just have, what's that?
For the south side?
For the south side, yes. They just will have to build that or that access per CDOT's regulations, which are pretty extensive now.
Mm-hmm.
Fully engineered.
Wow.
So rather than doing it themselves, they're gonna get an engineer and a contractor to do it right.
Where's it gonna be compared to where that other entrance is right there?
I think it's,
Gonna be, it's gotta be to the east,
yeah,
otherwise there's no way.
it's down about 2/3 of the length of the property to the east, down at the wider section.
I was talking about the other driveway that's on the entrance that's already there. There, on the east side of that little sliver.
Oh, yeah, I don't know exactly where that lines up from their property for that other residence on that next parcel.
Well, it's right where that blue line is, coming off the highway.
Right, and
Or
I
your
don't
green
know
line.
if that's, it didn't sound like they were gonna use that and improve it. They're gonna have their own specific access point.
I mean, it's exempted by,
It's
By the
cut off
highway.
by the highway, and there's not really much we can do with it. I wish them luck, because that's gonna be a pretty tough deal, getting
Yeah.
that access in, for that small of a piece of acreage.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they'll come out ahead in the end or not, but that's not our deal.
No. It's not, yeah, it's all within the states. So, I guess I don't have that, or I'm not seeing it.
How wide is that right there on the east side? How much
Scroll
room is
up,
there?
Chuck, to the sketch plan.
It's pretty small.
200,
Yeah, I can't see it from here.
it's about 200 feet, isn't it?
I don't
It's
know.
wide enough that you can put a residence in there and meet the setback requirements. And they're not looking, to rezone it commercial or anything. It'll stay AR 3-9. Or be zoned AR 3-9, coming off of that A80 plus.
A little bit larger than 200 feet. 250 to there.
Yeah, it looks like it's smaller than 200, but it doesn't matter what it is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
I mean, it's functional. It's, if it was 30 feet wide, and 1,200 feet long, may not be something that would be of benefit or something we would bring to you, but
I think I know where you're headed, is it doesn't make,
We can't,
I mean, we can have the exemption to make it, but it doesn't, I don't see it being feasible, but there again, that's not our,
I mean,
that's,
you could put a house on there and
I guess you could.
there you go.
So,
so
questions?
move we accept the Mylar for signatures for an exemption submitted by Adam and Shelly Redder, property located at 31589 Highway 160 Cortez.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to sign the Mylar for an exemption submitted by Adam and Shelly Redder on property located at 31589 Highway 160, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 2.42 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just to clarify, is there a Mylar for signature? Or this is just the approval of an exemption?
It's
Approval for the Mylar.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
just approval, not the actual signatures to that.
That'll come later down the road,
Correct.
when they actually develop it.
We'll get the legal description from the surveyor and get the actual Mylar and bring those both documents to you for signature.
Okay.
But we do have a Mylar to sign.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a previous approved Mylar for the Chenards from last summer, fall.
Was-
survey done, it won't be that, because that's where the old highway used to go.
That's all we got, unless
Is
you
that
got
it?
questions.
I have none at this point in time,
All
but
right.
it's early.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Now we're gonna move on to the public comment session. Frog in my throat. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. And with that, the public comment session is open.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Lynch, and I live at 21730 County Road S. I read the contract for Dominion for election equipment and services for Montezuma County. It is a 6-year contract that was signed February 13th, 2017. It ends December 31st, 2022. That is the end of this year. Our county paid $43,716 per year for the equipment and services. I found something interesting, though, in Section 12, limitation of liability. The contract says, quote, neither party shall be liable to the other party for any loss of, unquote, and then it lists several things, including loss of data. It says they are not liable for loss of data. Let that sink in for a minute. This contract is for equipment and services to run our elections, and Dominion is not liable for lost data. As a matter of fact, it even says, even if the parties or their representatives have been advised of the possibility of such damages, they could tell us beforehand that some of the data will not be preserved, and they have no liability for it, apparently. I have to wonder who it was that thought that was a good idea. There is a federal law that says something to the effect that presidential elections data must be preserved for 22 months after the election. I don't think it allows for the loss of any data. There is a Colorado law that says something to the effect that election data must be preserved for 25 months. I don't think it allows for the loss of any data. Previously, I've delivered to you specific and detailed information about the election equipment in Mesa County, Colorado. Included were 3 forensic reports about what was found on the hard drives of their equipment. They also included what was not found. There were significant numbers of missing files such that their elections could not be forensically verified. What difference does it make what happens in Mesa County? The Colorado Secretary of State is responsible for supervising and coordinating and enforcing codes in regard to elections for all counties in our state. Mesa County used Dominion like Montezuma County. They use similar equipment as Montezuma County. It is highly likely that the missing data in Mesa County will be very similar to missing data in our county. The only difference is that Mesa County made backup images of their hard drives on their own initiative in order to comply with federal and state laws. And when they examined the backups, they found that the data files required by federal and state laws were not preserved, and that there was not sufficient data remaining to validate the results of both their elections. The results of both their elections, 2020 and 2021, could not be proved forensically. The laws broken in Mesa County were also likely broken in Montezuma County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Frank Bishop, 27522 Road T. Good to see you all again. First, I wanted to thank all of our first responders and county representatives that came last week and updated us on the fire plan and the ongoings at Ironwood. I'll try to keep it brief this morning. I just want to point out that Ironwood has a pattern of behavior. They don't like to follow the rules, and they have bad behavior. They don't like to follow the land code use. They don't like to follow waste management, and they don't acknowledge when they're called out on deadlines, or they indeed blame the county, the state, and the neighbors when they are called out. This behavior of blaming the victim and trying to appear as if they themselves are the offended has a name. It's called gaslighting. I ask that you recognize this continued behavior and not tolerate it or encourage it. I believe that requires a substantial financial penalty. If burning the waste pile, which is a substandard disposal method, is the route followed, I ask that the penalty be equal to what it would cost the county to clean it up properly. I think we can all agree that we don't want to see all the wood mills just burning their wood waste going forward. It's substandard. It's not the way we should go. I think Ironwood's kind of tipped their hand as how they like to behave, and I think we need to stop that behavior now. If they are not stopped and continue to go forward, I can only imagine what they'll do when they have access to chemicals for making plywood, bringing in employees from out of area, and the other plans that they've already told us that they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
John Godbout, 28,000 Road T. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for getting a hold of CDPHE and taking the initiative to take care of that pile up at Ironwood. My concern right now is I've been contacted by vendors for Ironwood, which is an unusual step for vendors to take regarding money and asking about the going on there. So right now there's a plan in place to pay somebody to burn these piles, and my concern is what happens if they're unable to pay him and he's unable to finish the job. So this is kind of my unsolicited advice would be that to be prepared so that the county doesn't take the financial hit, and if that deadline's not met, to immediately move in and try to you know, have tax liens or fines in June. Those can always be released in the future if they start to comply, or fines can be forgiven, but at least it gives us a protection as a taxpayer to recoup some loss if the county has to end up footing the bill for the cleanup of that pile if they're unable to continue paying this contractor that they have. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's some copies for the commissioners. Now I'm going to take a seat if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. Just make sure that mic is turned on and you pull it up so that everybody can hear you.
Good morning.
Good
Ingrid
morning.
Ward, 15503 Highway 145, Dolores. I came to you guys before during Ironwood to talk to you about a process. I had found that looking at the county website and trying to get information was very difficult. And I promised I would be back to give you a little bit more of some of my ideas on that. So what I've got in front of you, there's no way that I can actually do in 3 minutes. What I'd like to do at one point later on is come to one of your Monday meetings, because there's a lot more thought process that's also behind this. I did want to make a correction. I submitted a public comment for the planning and zoning, and I said that I could not find materials before or after the meeting to review. I have to say that I can't find it before, but I have been able to find it after the fact. And this is what this presentation is really about. So if you do have electronic copies to make it easier, and I apologize to the folks that are on video who can't see this, but basically what you'll see on this packet is you'll see my opening kind of thing to put on the public, as a public comment. Then you'll see the second page is a copy of what I submitted to the planning and zoning the other day on the 14th. And then the third page starts to give you an idea what I have to go through to get materials to review. This is very similar to what I submitted previously on how I get on a Zoom call for this committee. And the illustration here is just to try to show you the number of steps it takes, and there is an easier way. So in order to really get any materials from planning and zoning, and this is after the fact, and that includes you guys' materials too, because this morning I ended up finding your packets, but this morning I looked for the packets that you would be presenting, and they still weren't online. So I have no opportunity to kind of look at these materials before I come here. And so to do it after the fact for planning and zoning, you'll see that it actually takes me 9 steps And because the 14th meeting for planning and zoning had 6 items, I have to do that 6 times. Well, step 4 through 9, I have to do 6 times. And it's just really time consuming. I mean, people have lives and people's times matter. On the page that's up right now, I want to kind of point something out that I thought was a little confusing to people. So on the 14th meeting, there's 6 items. On the Facebook page that announces the meeting, only 1 item is listed. And what I noticed is on the Facebook page, there was actually more detail than there were in the announcements. So I kind of consistency between, all right, well, I'll be back. Maybe I can meet on a Monday meeting.
That's fine.
Okay,
I
thank
mean,
you.
we'll look at these, and there's always room for improvement for everything, and we'll go from there. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for your comment. Next. Okay. Well, seeing no other public comment, we're going to move right along, and we'll close the public comment session, and we're going to go to a liquor license renewal for Echo Basin LLC. Jerry.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
I have a liquor license for Echo Basin LLC. That is, business address is 43747 Road M in Mancos, Colorado. And I have the letter from the sheriffs where they have found no violations on Echo Basin's license.
Get him, Tom.
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
I move to approve this retail liquor and fermented malt beverage license renewal application for Echo Basin LLC at 43747 Road M, Mancos, Colorado.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept and sign the retail liquor or fermented malt beverage license renewal application for Echo Basin LLC located at 43747 Road M, Mancos, Colorado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Jerry. Next, we're gonna move into public safety, and we do have 3 with us today. We'll start with the coroner.
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
Good. Well, we're still plugging along. We're ahead of last year, which I guess is going to be a new thing from here on out. We've got 55 calls in so far this year. We've had 4 suicides, 4 motor vehicle accidents, 5 overdoses, and 6 homicides. So things are kind of crazy in the area. I've had 7 kids in the last 4 months, which is kind of a bad thing. We're hoping we're done for the next 5 years now, but that's kind of been unusual. Usually we'll have maybe 1 or 2 a year, and this year's been crazy. We have done 69 autopsies. We have one scheduled for Dolores County on Thursday, so that'll be 70 so far for the year, so it's making a little bit of money. Anybody have any question?
No.
No?
No.
I have no question, but I have a correction for you. In our department head meeting yesterday, I said I felt that we were category 4. We actually are category 3D.
Yeah.
So we moved that one step, or that step was there. I had missed it from the category 4 to category 3D.
Okay.
So it's that. whatever that incremental is, but I just wanted to let you know that I stand corrected.
Perfect.
We're not category 4, we're category 3D.
3D.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, the D is because we did not take a increase in 2016.
Yeah, 15, 16, which was, yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
well, it was in 15, it would have took effect in 16.
Right, they had to vote on it in 15.
Yeah.
So that's where that difference is.
That's where the D comes from.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, anyway, just after we got to talking yesterday in that department head meeting and I looked it up, I'm like, well, better make sure. So I stand corrected.
George, I got a question. Some of these cases that you're seeing increases in, homicide, overdose, children. In your investigations, are you seeing a common thread in anything? Are you seeing any correlation or cause and effect? Can you attribute what's going on to anything other than the world's just becoming a dumpster fire?
You know, it's just a dumpster fire. The only thing I didn't bring up, and I don't have the numbers on, is the alcohol-related deaths is skyrocketed. And I kind of blame that on COVID. Whenever COVID hit, I know one person that owns a liquor store, and he said that he couldn't keep alcohol in the store. He said people that come in once a week were coming in every day. People that come in every day are coming in 2 or 3 times a day. I do know that in December I had 9, just in the month of December, had 9 alcohol-related deaths. Usually cirrhosis, alcoholic cirrhosis, and it's just keeps on running that way right now. I'm probably running a couple a month of those, if not more.
Alcohol poisoning?
I think it's just
No,
long-term effect of
maybe I've had
alcohol itself.
1 or 2 alcohol poisoning, alcohol toxicity, but the rest of them are from alcoholic cirrhosis, liver failure.
It's called a short or a long time happening, basically.
On these kids, when you're talking about kids, how, up to what age are you talking about?
The oldest was 14. That was cancer that was not found. Then it goes to 6 years old and under, all the way up to newborn. So, and nothing that we can point a finger to, you know, on any of them. Everything's just a little bit different. So, and we're looking at all avenues, trying to figure it out.
Hopefully it's over.
Yeah, I'm game, because we haven't had 6 kids in the last 6 years.
Right.
So, and we've had 7 in the last 4 months.
It's terrible.
Anything else? Well, on that note, you guys try to have a good day.
All right,
Thanks,
you too,
George.
George.
Thank-
Sheriff Steve Nallen, you are next.
We'll see if this magic voodoo will work.
We always have a cable up here.
You're doing a good job connecting so far.
Hey, at least I see the circle of death going on, so
Yeah.
we're okay.
As time flies.
There we go. Things work a little bit better when you're here, Shaq, because when you're not, gosh, do I have a problem. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Calls for service for the month of March were 1,506. Listed there below is the calls for service by quarter. The first quarter in 2019 was totaled 3,918. Calls for service in the first quarter of 2020 was 5,121. And 2021 was 3,897, and as you see for 2022, we have a total of 4,207 calls for service in the first quarter of this year. What really stands out again is our stolen vehicles, our auto theft. We had 9 in just the month of March. I just can't say it enough that several of these were, keys were left inside the vehicle. We did recover, we have recovered all of these except for 2. However, those that have been recovered, there's prosecutions that have already been filed. One case that where we recovered 4 stolen vehicles on one piece of property during the execution of a search warrant. That case, because of the drug involvement and drug trafficking that was connected with that, from what I understand, is going to be prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office, has taken that case. So that's a good sign. Things are a little bit quieter down in McKelmo Canyon because of it. So other than that, you can see that our domestics are staying steady. Livestock, we're starting to get a lot more livestock. I think we may even surpass just 23 calls for livestock at large last month. We're already at that this month, pretty much. So we're getting a lot of calls. So fences need to be repaired, and that's really what the problem is. Other than that, do you have any questions about our calls for service?
Is that just all kinds of livestock? Is it
Yes.
cattle,
Mostly it's
horses?
cattle, but there are horses. We're starting to get a lot of those. We have 2 that are going to be taken up as strays that we've been working on for the past year and a half. So that will be a good thing. They just keep showing up here, there, and everywhere. So other than that, okay. I'm going to go to the jail report next, if I could. So then we'll talk about the cost. So for the month of March, for the detention center transports, this is what shows you that we had 10 adults that were transported by our transport unit and their costs. I'm afraid that we're going to be
Steve?
pushing that.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's
I was,
all right.
I was looking at those numbers, and you got a total mileage in
Right.
March of 3262,
Right.
but a sum total of 815 hours.
Right.
What? It was.
Overnight stays
Oh, okay.
and multiple stops, yeah.
Okay.
Pickups and deliveries. It's almost like UPS. Unfortunately, human UPS.
Instead of brown, it's orange. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of hours and a lot of miles. The our transport vehicle, and just trying to get that replaced has really been a struggle. We've got over 200,000 miles on that Tahoe, and we just got the transmission replaced because it went out 3 months ago. It took 8 weeks to get one, and then at least the county maintenance was able to put that in, vehicle maintenance, so that helped save some money. It really did. But we're struggling with this. I don't know what we're going to be able to do. I've got, as you know, 3 transport vans that were purchased back in 2014, 2013, and 2012 that we're having to use as pool vehicles for long distance transports. They're only 2-wheel drive, and they've got a lot of miles, and I'm just afraid that I hate to send them out there with a vehicle that may break down somewhere. That's not a good thing, especially if you're on a path somewhere. What do you do with your prisoners? It's an issue. So at least our communications with Cortez and Denver comm centers has really benefited and been improved. So we do have communications wherever they travel, even in other states. So that really works. This is the cost for Diem for transports. for the month of March. So, that comes out of the transport line item, out of the detention budget. For our inmate.
So
counts-
go back up to that again, Steve, please. Sorry, I was.
That's all right.
So just the per diem in February is all we had that we paid out, correct?
Yes, that's just in the month of February. We had none.
None in March, none in January. Okay.
And just so you know that, the vehicle maintenance, department has commented, when they go to drop off DOC prisoners or prisoner transports in and out of the Denver metro area, they're not to use E-470 route. If they do, they have to pay for that toll. If they don't, and they get a ticket, they gotta pay for that ticket, so, that toll ticket. I don't pay the toll tickets, they shouldn't be on that route, so, just so you know. And it's generally about $2.50, so I don't know why you can't dump a bunch of corners in there and take it out. That happens every now and then, it's once in a blue moon. So in the month of March, as you can see, you know, how many males and females that we had, and the total number of days. Probably the most important is the next page that shows what the daily activity is in the detention center with arrests and releases. So, you know, getting up into the low 90s, and right now today we're at 77. So they're in and out constantly, 24 hours a day. Just to let you know, with the recent court orders from District Court Chief Judge, that because of the 48-hour requirement for bond hearings, if when we do arrest warrants, or any agency does seek and obtains an arrest warrant through an affidavit and a warrant signed by the judge, a copy of both the arrest affidavit and the warrant are delivered to the detention center. Doesn't matter what agency it is, so long as it's within the 22nd Judicial District. That is, if the person is arrested or incarcerated in our detention center, those documents have to be provided to the judge that is hearing for a bond, for an advisement. The next one is when there is an arrest, a warrantless arrest, that the warrantless arrest affidavit does not have to be notarized, just a document that is attached to it shows that it's all true and correct and is signed by the arresting officer and part of that file. That has to be done before the arresting officer leaves the detention center. Can't be any other way. And that's on the head of every law enforcement agency to make sure that happens. We did have a couple, because of some busy activity last weekend, where an officer from an agency left before returning and bringing that back. He should have never left. So that's going to be corrected in the future, so that we can at least help these agencies make sure they don't get any contempt citations from the court. It's important that those documents get to the court or to the bond hearing officer over the weekend. That's what that's about. A lot of new hoops. Like I explained yesterday, there's flow charts that we've had to put together of how to do what, when, and so on and so forth. But the detention staff and deputies are really doing the best that they can with it, and really doing a good job. So this is the total number of prisoner day breakdown. And as we go into what the billing was for the month of March, City of Cortez, you can see they had total of 12 days of inmates in the detention center, $900. They were charged $75 a day. For Dolores County, we had 3 inmates. 2 have been there for over 3 months anyway. And so they had a total of 65 days. They were, Dolores County was billed at $75 a day, $4,875 for the use of the detention center. DOC holds, this is the one that always gets you, right? We only have 2 left that will be transported to DOC intake currently today. But we had a total of 86 days. Even though we charged them at $75 a day for 86 days, and that's the amount that they're billed, they only pay that $59 and whatever change it is. So that's set by our legislators. So this is what our total costs were for the detention center in the month of March. If you look at the state charges, you can see what is not being reimbursed into the detention center. Those are the costs of $75 per day with 2,607 inmate days. And the fees that were collected through sheriff's fees, booking fees, understand that with Senate Bill 1280 and the reduction of the jail bill that came out and was passed last year that went into effect. In that law, it reduced the mandatory or allowed sheriff's fees from $30 for a booking charge now down to $10. However, I still can charge the $10 for the fingerprint fees. All of those have to be posted, as you've seen. It's posted on the sheriff's website. It's at the jail. That's where we got compliance from the state, that we're in compliance with everything. Any questions about those fees?
Yeah, I always have a question about the fees, specifically the DOC, and I thought, I mean, I'm going back looking at our attorney, there are different DOC fees in there. And when you look at that statute, and they go up to 100 plus
Exactly.
per day. So who do we need to reach back out to again? Because what you're gonna display here in a minute, what it's costing us, we can't continue to do these DOC holds and these DOC transports and be negative on the reimbursement side of it. We're not
And just
even getting-
realistically, you cannot get room and board anywhere for $58 a night.
Correct. So I guess that's my rub, and it's always been my rub, is like, I thought we could deny those DOC holds.
I mean, technically, it's an unfunded mandate, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's really
So
what it
why
is.
are we,
And
why do
so-
we continue to have a DOC hold in the jail?
Why do we have a DOC hold?
Why do we continue to allow it,
Well, these are people that have been incarcerated for felony charges.
right?
That hold a prison
Okay,
sentence possibility.
But why are they
Once they're
not being
convicted-
removed immediately?
Well, once they're convicted, that's
Correct.
where the hold is at, okay? And that's upon DOC to be able to accept them so that we can transport them to there.
But what kind of pressure are we putting on them again? Because I remember the phone calls that we made in the years past. It's like, you guys can't leave them here for 10 days, 5 days, 20 days and not pay the fee. You have to get them out of here. Why do we continue to hold them and not, I mean,
Well, we can't
It's
take
sort
them
of a-
somewhere and drop them off and then say goodbye. I mean, they have to accept them, that's the
I
problem.
get that.
Have you talked to
But I'm
Governor
saying-
Abbott about that?
Yeah.
Hello, what?
Talked to Governor Abbott about that?
How do we push them to get them to their people or reimburse us the amount? Is all I want to do is be reimbursed. If we have the facility in the room, that, I understand their facility may not be large enough. However, because they're not willing to deal with an unfunded mandate, why is it forced on us?
Well, I think part of it is, I mean, the legislature sets those fees. And so this may be something that really has to be addressed at the legislative
But
level.
when you look at those fees that they've set, it's in there.
Well, they set the fees, and then there's some language in that statute that says that they can deviate from the fees if they so choose, but they don't so choose.
Yeah, that's, we've had this discussion for years, and the biggest problem is that statute that allows only the Board of County Commissioners to enter into a contract with the Department of Corrections. And that's where, because I don't have that authority to do that, or I had done that a long time ago.
I thought we had opted out of that.
No, I don't think we've opted out of it. They won't adjust their fees.
They
I mean,
just
we
won't.
check on it every year, and they say this is the legislative fee, and this is what the law says we have to do, and it says we can do something else, and we're simply not. I mean, that's been their consistent position. I mean, literally, it's been an every year occurrence since I've been here.
Yeah, so we'll see another fee set by their legislators in June or July. That's usually what happens annually. Now, hopefully, they're not gonna decrease that. But the thing is, though, is that we bill them for what you have set the inmate cost per days at. We have records completely from the very beginning of what they paid and what they haven't paid. So.
The real difficulty here is that the law says this is what you have to pay. You can pay more, state. And so, I mean, the law as it's written allows the state to, in essence, shirk their
So
responsibility
that
to pay
contract
more.
are those 2 or 4 year contracts?
What's that?
The contracts are those 2 or 4 year contracts?
With,
Well,
DOC?
The DOC or those?
I don't have a contract.
Yeah, there's no
with DOC.
we don't have a contract with DOC. We just pay the legislative, the fee that's set by the legislature.
Right.
And then there's a provision in that statute that says that we can contract for different fees. Well, they've just refused to contract. They say, we're not gonna do it. We're going by the legislative fee.
Let's turn them into collections.
I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean,
Might as well try something.
they simply refuse to contract.
So do you still have the number of the guy, I can't even remember his name, but I remember that Commissioner Ertel and myself called him.
There's been 3 different directors over the past 7 years, so, I don't know who.
Because
I
these
can
numbers,
get that information.
these numbers are gonna
Yeah.
be even worse. Maybe if you get that, let's
Yeah.
try to reach out to him again, because this is,
Yeah.
here again, the bleeding has gotta stop.
I'm-
And it's gonna get worse. You're getting ready to present to us something that's even worse, and it doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah.
Just the inflation cost of food in the jail alone.
Oh, I know, exactly. It needs to go up. And
Well,
they need to pay.
And ultimately, I mean, if the Department of Corrections is not gonna work with the county, and I mean, we can certainly try again, we've tried before, I think we continue to put pressure on them, but if the Department of Corrections will not work with the county, it has to come from the legislature. That statute has to be revised, those fees have to be set, and then that's it. I mean, that's where it has to come from, because as long as there's that loophole in the statute, I mean, it's sort of like if you and I have a contract that says, you have to pay me such and such, but if I want, if I want to take less, I can. Well, I'm not going to take less. I mean, it's the same.
I get that. So find the numbers and
Yeah.
we'll reach out to them, and then we'll reach out to,
It may be worth, I'm just gonna throw it out there. It may be worth a visit from all of you to the legislators when this comes up again this year. I don't know when it'll come up, but it will come up again for the reimbursement costs and fees for the county jails in Colorado. It might be worth a trip up to Denver to address them personally and put it on the record publicly about the problems that we've had with them not paying the actual costs that the county has incurred.
Well, and the real difficulty with this is, I mean, it truly is an unfunded mandate. And the state constitution says no unfunded mandates. But what are we going to do? I mean, we've got prisoners that get sentenced here. We can't set them out on the street.
no, and I'm not.
It's a really difficult
It is.
conundrum that they've put us in. And it's unfortunate. I think it's a mistake.
They've been doing this forever.
They have.
They have. I mean, we had the
But
same issue
just because,
before.
but I guess it's gotta stop. Sometime it's gotta stop. We're gonna be 100% over what they're paying us basically pretty quick on the numbers that you have presented to us. So it's not, that is an unfunded mandate, which they say they don't do, but they do every day, or they try to. Anyway, I'll go on.
It's not fair, and it's discriminatory against the law enforcement agencies that we have that utilize the Montezuma County Detention Center in this judicial district, that pay the fee that you set, and the state gets away with it. That is not fair, and that really is the point. And it's certainly not, you're not gouging anything, you're paying what the cost is to house these people.
But what's not looked at is, it's not just the cost today, is we're looking at what is it costing us to replace or to add that pot onto that jail. There has to be a replacement cost factored into it, just like closure post-closure. It doesn't just appear, the money doesn't just appear.
No, it doesn't.
So,
Looking at what we did with the estimated cost, cost analysis for 2021, now we show $88.68 per day. But that's from last year. I can guarantee you that this year, it'll be more, because of our costs have really started to increase for utilities and food. Everything has gone up. If it wasn't for the grants that I have, especially for the mental health issues and the agreements that I have with Southwest Hospital and their outpatients, those costs are going to go up. But I'm getting those medications and stuff paid. When you see what those medical costs are every year or every day that come in from inmates that have medical issues that were not, some have always been there, and we don't pay those. Those are self-existing. We don't have to pay those. But the other ones, it's crazy. $100 per visit to the outpatient clinic. Okay. Trying to get Medicaid to help with that. That seems to go back and forth as far as when they're incarcerated, they don't get that benefit. So the county ends up having to take care of that. That's a problem. It is.
so we'll make another phone call and see if we can't
Yeah,
do something.
it's certainly worth a try. I mean,
Is CCI discussing this at all?
Mm-mm. This didn't come at all on any of the bills. They're just trying to keep up with the 600 bills that are dropping in the hopper.
They're one away
Actually,
from
598 bills today. And we still have 3 weeks to go.
Yeah.
And the big ones are coming.
Oh, I know. So that is what our cost was for last year, okay, from January 1 to December 31st. And that's the estimated cost. And so it's $75 a day. It doesn't match that. So it's something you're going to have to consider of what you want to do about fees. But also understanding that our local agencies are the ones that are paying that.
Well, we can't continue to pay for the other local agencies either.
Especially when state charges are filed, when municipal charges are not. Yeah.
So this probably should be one of the conversations we have at our next board.
With the city?
Coming up,
Yeah.
I think in May, with the city there first, right? Actually, it needs to be on all of the boards because, I mean, in my opinion, we raise it starting June 1.
Whatever you want to do. We'll do that's pretty much what I have. I do you have anything else for me? I just got a couple of things to go over.
Sure, if you had submitted to Phaedra a pay increase, and I've been directed to, rather than deal with these one at a time, get a policy together to handle how we deal with things when a certification comes up. So we're actually gonna have that on the agenda next Monday.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
And I'll try to get you a draft ahead of time.
Yeah, need to. I understand that there, with a couple of the other new hires that I have, I didn't start them out at that beginning because of certain things, but I understand that after 6 months and to a year, they need to be brought up to where that starting salary is at. Okay, so, and there's, the funding is in there. So, just being fair to them.
Pardon me.
Okay.
I think it's more like what Shaq said. It should be spelled out so that everybody knows exactly what it is and what certification equals what amount. And that's just a conversation that we'll have for next week.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation. Need to. I do. I do have a couple of requests here as far as with the, we need a culvert and some gravel on the road to the sheriff's office range out at the landfill. If I could get permission to have the road department do that, they've got a culvert and the gravel. So I just, I could deal with everything else, need to ask for that to happen. And sometime if we could get some more gravel at the sheriff's office parking lots and grade that. Wintertime kind of took a toll. So. Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Yep.
Uh,
Have you communicated with Rob? Does he know how much you need?
okay.
Have you?
I have. I told him
Okay.
that, and he had no problem, but I don't wanna, like I always have, I bring it to you guys.
Okay.
To make sure. Okay. Cause that's what he asks. He always does. Alright. And as far as Ironwood, I did have, I participated in the public meeting with the residents there on County Road T and T.5 and the 145 highway area around there. So they understand what is happening and what would happen if anything were to happen. So it went well. Okay. Questions? Good?
Well, did that actually was that an actual tabletop or was it just a?
No, it was just a community meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, and again, I keep hearing they just want updates.
Mhm.
Okay, and that would really be a good thing for them. But it went well, it was well received, and they certainly all understand now, so.
Which is another reason why we put out our updates so that they can all view them.
Well, good, I appreciate it, thanks.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Mr. Spratlin, Emergency Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Ms. Kim. Morning, Ian. Mr. Shack.
Good morning.
All right. Any questions?
Thanks
What's
for
the
coming.
meaning of life?
So we're done, right? You get all my emails.
Get all your emails. We read the sit report.
Yeah.
The pictures of Ironwood look great, of all the stuff that's actually being removed.
Yeah, and I'm sending that on to Chief Zion and also to all the neighbors. They're getting a copy of whatever I send you. That way we keep that flowing so we know what's going on.
Right.
For now, he should be out there today, I hope. So the couple updates on there, our water is raising really well at N.M.P. We're up to 41,558 acre feet as of yesterday. So we're getting some flow there. The river coming into it, of course, is around 700 plus in the morning. So it's flowing rather well, 770. as they call it, the bird flu, highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI. It's left the wild birds, it's now in domestic birds, and it's growing up north. We have a couple of our employees, one was asked, I can't go up there, but we got one going up to help up there for now to see but I anticipate it heading this way. So CSU has all the answers, so I'm gonna go talk to them today, and we'll see. We've got several precautions set up right now, but that is headed this way. Red flag warning today, noon to 8 p.m. Winds 20 to 30, gusts up to 45. It's drying out our fuels. Our RH, relative humidity, is pretty low. This is, I hate to be the gloom and doom, but it's a perfect time for a fire, and we hope that won't occur. A lot of them are breaking out everywhere. Ruidoso, a couple in Texas. We've got 3 in California, southeast Colorado. Greeley had one. It just goes on from there. So it's crunchy. And the sheriff brought up a great idea. I'm sorry. We had a really good meeting in Dolores. And part of that was to explain what evacuation's about, pre-plan, et cetera. And that's what I'm telling everybody. Everybody should have a plan, right? You should prepare, plan, and then practice, the 3 Ps. And it's a big deal. Get your stuff in Tupperware bins, plan on it, because you may only have 5-10 minutes to get out. That's anywhere in our county. It can happen mainly for the fire evacuation right now, but it can happen during floods and, if we ever got moisture, floods and avalanche and snowstorms. What are you going to do without power? Where are you going to go if your house is destroyed? Do you have a plan? Stuff like that. So trying to push that out. We're going to put a lot out on our media page and get that going. Our moisture, our precipitation, I mentioned yesterday, a 3-month outlook, April, May, and June. We're 40 to 50% below average precipitation for the year. And on the seasonal temperature outlook, we're 60 to 70% higher above normal temperature. So that's the outlook for 3 months. So we're up and running. Part of the, one of the things that in my situation report, but COVID updates, COVID's going down. Our cases, our vaccines, et cetera. So we're trying to, it's sad, but we're trying to put that behind us. We're moving on now with this fire issue that's going on throughout, actually, the United States. He mentioned Ironwood, so they're out there working on that. And then for a training update, I've spent on and off 45 days running around, not only instructing, but also learning. So all my certs are up, ready to go. So I'm certified in everything. And we'll try to keep that going. Hopefully, we don't have any issues throughout our state where they're going to utilize a lot of emergency managers to go, because I really think I should stay home during this season. But if something occurs, I won't be outside of Colorado. I can be here in a heartbeat. So that's about it, gentlemen, I think. Just don't play with matches. Good?
Yeah. Have you met with the sheriff and the fire departments actually to kind of monitor, look at the burn bans? What are any anticipation?
None yet. The sheriff definitely, we were talking about that last week, as a matter of fact. Hasn't got anything in the works right now, but if we keep getting all these red flags, it's coming. We'll probably just put the ban up with the permit. Same thing that we did last year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
While we're discussing that, for the benefit of those listening on YouTube, during the entire month of May, the landfill will be taking your limbs and yard waste at no charge so that you don't need to burn it.
Nice. Gentlemen, lady?
Thanks, sir.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. unfinished business, Mr. McLaren, let's talk about the racetrack contract.
Yeah, so we did get a proposal for a lease for the racetrack. We talked about it yesterday during our workshop. Really, in essence, it's a 5-month lease, term, cost. I don't know whether you guys want to talk about any more with it, but I think the terms are all there, and
I think the only thing that we should let the public here know is that originally this was a 1-year contract, so they've asked if they could put it back to just a 5-month contract, which we obviously have agreed to. And it's just a matter of, obviously, a reduction of the lease amount to the $62.50, which is still concurrent with the monthly amount that was in the proposal. Obviously, we can get on the property and do inspections with the 4 blackout dates of the high school rodeo, the 12 hours, the Mesa Verde, the fair, if you go down, I'll read them, Shack. The other way. The Montezuma County Fair and the Ute Mountain Roundup Rodeo, which were always in there consistently with any contract that we've had. And really, that's it.
And then, so, in order for this gentleman to sign the contract, we do not need the commissioners to sign today, but we would need you to approve the changes to the contract.
And I think we could even sign today, get it to him tomorrow to
Yeah,
sign. I don't see any reason not to sign it today.
There's no reason to not, yeah, I agree, so. In a nutshell, that's what it is. It was just a reduction in the time and the money that equals the time.
And then there were just a few clarifications again about equipment and
Yeah,
us,
makes
when we
sense.
use the premises, just restoring them back to their previous condition.
Okay.
Move we accept the changes in the lease agreement and sign it.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded to accept the changes in the racetrack lease agreement and that we actually sign it. All those in favor? Or any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is signed by all 3 of us.
Do I need to return that to Ian or Shaq, or both of you?
Probably Ian, me, and Justin.
And then obviously send us a copy also, Kim, electronically so that we can have it. Okay, moving on. Well, Ian, you get to talk about all of our unfinished business today. So we'll talk about the deed restrictions.
Yep, so I've got a restriction notice from the, dealing with the Carver landfill properties. That's the properties that are no longer active parts of the landfill, but that we acquired at some point from the city of Cortez. Worked with the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, CDPHE, to put this together. This is something that CDPHE asked that we put on the property. Basically, it's a series of use restrictions given the previous use of that property and some of the environmental dangers that exist there. Ran this by Mel and Shaq, and they were fine with what's in there. And so we just need a motion to approve these and a signature, and then we can get this recorded.
You guys have any questions on it?
No, I read
mean,
through it, I don't have any.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, I think
nothing gonna
it's-
be there other than a composting
Compost
pile.
pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and I think it is important, given that we want to do composting down there, that we have that in there, and that
Sure.
is allowed pursuant to this, so
Yep.
we should be good to go.
Okay.
Okay,
So we'll just need a motion and a second, and then a signature. Go ahead.
You want to do it, or?
Okay, I move we approve and accept the notice of environmental use restrictions imposed by the Colorado Department of Public Health on the landfill, on the Carver, what is it?
Carver Field.
The
Carver Field.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the notice of environmental use restrictions imposed by the Colorado Department of Public Health pursuant to section 25-15-321.5 of the CRS on the Carver landfill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ian, you're next. Bike
And-
trail easements.
Yeah, so the last thing we have are the trail easements for the new Dolores bike trail that run out of the town of Dolores. If you guys will recall, the trail starts back behind the Dolores High School and runs up the canyon there. The first several properties that it runs through are within the town limits, and so the town was the easement holder for those easements. In essence, the bike club did not want to hold the easements just because of the nature of the club, and you never know how long something like that's going to last. So they asked that the county hold the easements on these three properties that are in Montezuma County, so they can build their bike trail through. We discussed this with the commissioners. I mean, in essence, as far as the county's liability goes, this will become part of our liability insurance. It's not going to be an issue there. But really, when it comes to these sorts of public trails and the sort of liability that the county could face, it's very, very limited. We have a lot of immunity, and the only way that we would be held liable for something that happened out there is if, we were to do something really egregious, dig a big hole or not take care of something that needed to be taken care of. That was just so obvious. And so, very limited liability for the county. This will allow the bike club to construct their trail up through those three properties. And so we just need a motion for signature. And I actually, there was one landowner that just sent over some changes yesterday afternoon. So one of these, I actually have the copy that need to be signed. So I'll swap this out.
Okay. And just for you, Commissioner Copenhaver, this is basically just exactly like what we have on that private piece of property. There's just a sliver of Phil's World that, believe it or not, is actually on a private piece of property, how they built that. So it's consistent with that for these other pieces of property that are for those trails.
Do you need an individual vote on each one, Ian, or can they lump all three of them together?
I think we're fine to lump them all three together.
Okay, let's see if we can get this done. I move we accept easement agreements and terms and conditions with Richard Gantman and Brenda Nash, whose address is P.O. Box 1493, Dolores. Oops, back up one. Where you at?
There's Dry Fork
And
LLC.
then also between Dry Fork LLC and Montezuma County, their address is 673 Riverside Avenue, Mancos. And the last one is Legato Investments LLC and Montezuma County. Their address is P.O. Box 2213, Dolores, Colorado.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the easement agreement for the Dolores Bike Trail in regards to Richard Gantman and Brenda Nash at P.O. Box 1493, Dolores, Colorado, Dry Fork LLC, Mancos, Colorado, at 673 Riverside, Mancos, Colorado, and Legato Investments LLC, Post Office Box 2213, Dolores, Colorado. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then Jim, if you wouldn't mind passing those down, I have a signature just to approve them as to form.
All right, thank you, Ian. Okay, next we'll keep you on the hot seat, because your county attorney's report is next, unless there's anything else that we need to address on unfinished business.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, all right.
The biggest news, we did get a motion yesterday afternoon, or a request to the Board of Assessment Appeals from the attorneys that represent Walmart to dismiss their tax appeal for the 2021 tax year. In essence, there was a case that was pending before the Supreme Court involving Walmart in Adams County, or was actually a petition of certiorari. So, in essence, Adams County had asked the Supreme Court to, or Walmart had asked the Supreme Court to hear the case. The Supreme Court denied to hear the case, and so at this point, Walmart has asked that their case be dismissed. They were going to try to make some arguments as to the way that property was assessed, but the Supreme Court denied them, and so the Board of Assessment Appeals has not yet issued an order dismissing the case, but I anticipate that that'll come probably sometime today or this week. Other than that, we did have the meeting for the NCA on the Lower Dolores River. Talked about some language as to that. I think we talked about that in yesterday's workshop, but in essence, I think we're getting close to some language that all the parties can agree on with that. Other than that, we've got some case with planning and zoning out in the Summit Lake subdivision that we're working through. I think that we're hopefully getting towards a resolution with that. That deals with the CDOT access coming off and the subdivision request by the landowner there. So I've been working with Mr. Haley and the landowner's attorney to reach a resolution in that regard. And other than that, everything is kind of holding steady.
Very good. Questions for Ian?
No,
Okay.
been busy.
I don't see James in here.
I've notified him. He was on the phone when I notified him, so he's
Okay.
probably trying to get off of that.
We
We
can
can go directly to my report,
We'll go
which
straight to you.
I don't have one.
Okay, well, gosh, wow. Okay, I like it. All right, well, I went to the right, I'll go to the left this morning. Commissioner Copenhafer.
I attended the NCA meeting with Ian. We both zoomed in on that meeting, and we did get some changes that we were concerned with in the copy that we had, as far as what the different water projects above the area of the NCA. The way they had changed the language, it was gonna take in everything that happened above that, as far as any kind of small water project had to be looked at. So hopefully, if we get all of that changed to where it's the same as it is in the NCA, all those small projects and everything will be exempt from any kind of,
Section 7 analysis.
analysis as far as getting them projects done. So should get them out of there, because that was one thing that really changed when they took the big and small deal out of the legislation. So hopefully we got that straightened out. I also attended the Mancos meeting, and they didn't swear in their new member yet. They just got one new member that was elected this time. So that's gonna happen this next meeting, and their board will change over to this next meeting. But other than that, everything's going along.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah, not much to report. Did go to city council, Cortez City Council meeting last Tuesday night. I'm not so sure, they might have set a record for the shortest meeting, but I'm not for sure. They opened the meeting and 40 minutes later we were done.
Wow.
And,
That's a record.
They didn't have a workshop, so it was a pretty short meeting. And, as Gerald alluded to with his council over there in Mancos, Cortez is going to swear in theirs this coming Tuesday. We've all been invited, starting 7 o'clock, and I don't think there's a work session. And we had our work session yesterday and also our department head meetings, and that's about the size of it. Oh, one other thing, don't forget the gun show this weekend. Participate.
Okay, very good.
It is, by the county administrator, a new weapon week. So if any of you want to remember that while you're at the gun show, that'd be appreciated.
I missed that somewhere.
Also, it's by the county administrator, 9mm and 223 week.
And since he didn't have a report, that really doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
so, all right. For me, mine was not the same. I went to the Southwest TPR meeting, first meeting that we've had in person for a long time. It was both hybrid. A few issues at CDOT's facility in Durango, but we were able to get through it. Went through the congressional updates from Jenny Grimm, which were pretty interesting. Our MMOF, our multimodal funding applications are due by May 9th, which I know that Mr. Dietrich is working on one for us for the MMOF. And those projects will be looked at by the TPR the first part of June. And the ARPA fund dollars, which this has never happened before, but those federal funds can actually match federal fund dollars at this point in time, which has never been done in the past. There was a renewal letter to renew the Council of Government, the COG, with the TPR since they work hand in hand. Typically a 3-year contract that was only renewed for the remainder of this year since the COG is in limbo. They have no director and they're probably going to be absorbed by Region 9. So that was renewed for just 1 year because they do currently have their own board that is still in play. We then wrote a letter of support for La Plata County for CDOT. La Plata County is actually submitting the application for CDOT, and that would be for Elmer's Corner Store to County Road 225, which is basically at the bottom of the hill where that cross intersection is. That's a horrible stretch of highway, and we all felt that that was one of the highest priorities that we could do to get set forward to help CDOT out in our region. Then I went, Sarah and I went to the STAC meeting Friday, the State Transportation Advisory Committee. And I have a slide deck here that if you guys want to send, if you want me to send it out to you, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. But most of the talk at the STAC committee meeting was over the GHG rule and the planning process, which is greenhouse gas emissions and how CDOT is going to have to comply and how they're making the rules for CDOT to comply with their reductions of metric tons that they have to comply with. Friday night I went to the benefit dinner for Mr. Presnell. Pretty big event, a lot going on there. Had a great Easter Sunday with my family, enjoyed it. Monday we jumped back into our department head meeting. Just kind of discussed some of the fleet issues that we have, something that Shane has brought forward that I think everybody is pretty much aware with, trying to keep vehicles on the road and the difficulty that we're having just trying to get vehicles in general. We also talked to, then we went into our workshop in the afternoon. We had an update from Matt Margison, our district attorney, and the calls that they are having. Some of the calls that that were up were the DV calls, the domestic violence, and the other one,
Child.
Felonies.
the felonies.
The felony filings were
The
up
felony
significantly.
files were way up, which is a little bit concerning. We talked to a couple of gentlemen from down on County Road G as far as ditch concerns near County Road G. And that'll go a little bit farther on, conversation with Rob Englehart when he gets back. We discussed all of our racetrack contract issues, which we have presented today and dealt with. Obviously, we discussed the NCA as Commissioner Copenhaver and Attorney McLaren have talked about. One of the bigger ones for myself, Shaq and Phaedra, is the CTF that we use to Conservation Trust Fund, CTF, of what we can and cannot do. We had an interesting conversation with DOLA, about a 45-minute conversation, and went through all of the categories that were eligible and ineligible for that, and we found out that there are quite a few more things that we are actually eligible for, that we can use that funding out at the fairgrounds, so we'll be making those changes. And that pretty much, other than Dolores, along with Mancos and Cortez, they will install their new people. They have 4 new ones in Dolores, and that'll be done next Monday, the 25th, and then they will have their new council starting the remainder of that night. And with that said, that'll conclude my report. And I see Mr. Dietrich just walked in the room, so we will go to James, our Natural Resource Director.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Okay, so I wanted to let commissioners know I did attend the Energy and Environment Symposium last week up in Rifle. And it was certainly a little bit of a different tone this time than what we've experienced in the past up there. With the passage of State Bill, I believe it was 181, requiring, a new look at the way COGCC handles all the cases coming forward. And I think really kind of the message that came out is that the oil and gas companies are prepared to deal with the new regulations. It's going to be difficult for them to do it. They will certainly be passing all the additional cost on to the consumer. But those energy companies that are in the game and are good energy companies are prepared and able to handle everything that's coming. There's been a lot of them that have fallen in the meantime. But it by no means means that we're at the end of oil and gas in Colorado, but it is more difficult. One thing I did learn too is that it sounds like there's been an awful lot of variances requested to COGCC, and it sounds like they're taking those variances pretty serious and actually granting quite a few of those variances. So it appears that there is a working relationship beginning to develop. I think COGCC is still working through some of the rules and everything that they're trying to enforce now at this point. And it sounds like they're finally starting to get their head around some of the air quality monitoring. And that was one of the big focuses that we heard up there. And so I think that is going to become a much bigger portion of the preliminary work that these oil and gas companies do, and then ongoing during the whole production phase. And there's some inherent problems with the air quality monitoring, but I think that they are getting that figured out and working through it, and may get themselves all on the same page at some point here. So anyway, it was, it wasn't all terrible news, although it wasn't terribly encouraging either. So it is what it is, and we'll just we'll face it, and we'll move forward with it. So I'm hearing that they've re-upped some of the leasing on federal lands. I just heard that this morning. It's not a significant portion, but about 144,000 acres is what I've heard. Right now, we're not really having a whole lot of action on the federal lands out there anyway. Out there in N.M.P.M, it's been pretty dead out there for the past few years anyway. So I don't anticipate anything new happening out there, although we don't know, what Kinder Morgan's really got in mind. So we'll wait and see on that. So overall, it was a really good conference. Again, I don't think we're not out of the game. It's just that the game has changed and become more difficult. But we'll keep working with it. So in the meantime, I've just been working on grant requests primarily for the Paso Mesa Verde Trail. So what we've decided to do, a benefit cost analysis was one of the requirements for the federal RAISE grant. We had one that was prepared for our initial grant application, that Tiger grant that was done, back 2012, I believe it was. After reviewing that BCA, we found some flaws in that. So we're going to reposition and take another run at that RAISE grant. They're supposed to be opening up another call for applications mid to late summer. So I've been working with the town of Mancos. The town of Mancos is planning to apply for a DOLA grant that would help pay for the BCA to be prepared. And that will actually provide state matching funds also, because it's a federal grant that we're applying for. So that'll help us meet the match. And right now we're repositioning and focusing all of our effort into the MMOF funds. We'll apply for the Mancos side to meet our federal match requirement. That would be about $703,000. So that would be the ask on the Mancos side. That should get us all the funding we need to actually get the pathway completed from Mancos to Mesa Verde with a soft surface. And then we will also make an ask of the MMOF fund for the state dollars to complete the remaining planning and right-of-way work that needs to be done on segment A, which would be from the Cortez High School to the fairgrounds. And that is the last remaining piece, and that is probably the most difficult piece. It is the piece that we actually have an opportunity to get the trail out and away from the highway right-of-way. And that is really significant because that is also the section that has the most entrances coming on and off of that highway, and that's where all the accidents occur. So CDOT's really encouraging us to try to find an alternative route. We've already talked with them. They understand that if we cannot secure an alternative route, then our fallback will be within the right-of-way, just like it is on the rest of the trail. And they're comfortable with that also. But we would like to try to move that out and away from the highway corridor if possible. It's what the public asked for. It is also a safety factor, so we'll work on that. CPW has some concerns about that, but I think that we can work through those concerns. And because we kept the trail within the highway right-of-way for the rest of the trail, it sounds like they've got some more flexibility for us with segment A, especially when you consider the safety factor in there on that. So hopefully we've got an angle forward on that one also. So anyway, that has been my last week and a half. And I will spend the rest of the week here trying to get that all prepared and finalized. Deadline is May 8th on that. So we should hit that deadline just fine. We've got pretty much got all the MMOF stuff prepared. I've been working real closely with Nicole Glassner, and she has just been outstanding as far as her help in preparing these grants. And she'll continue to work with us to get those MMOF grants finalized also. So I just really can't say enough about her. She's been energetic, really on top of it, and you know, it's always a crapshoot with those grants. You never know what you're going to get. But boy, I can tell you that her writing style and everything I find to be just outstanding. So I think we've got a great opportunity there. So.
Good.
Other than that, I think that kind of concludes my report for the week. I'll just be writing for the rest of the week and working on budgets.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, James. Any other questions for James?
No.
No? Okay. Well, anything else?
Kim, did you have anything?
Oh,
If you gentlemen have a minute.
Yes.
I just wanted to talk to you about the current hospital district election. This election is not being done by the county clerk's office. It is a special district election, and they chose not to coordinate with us for November and to do their own election. Ballots are not to be returned to any of the county drop boxes or the county clerks. They need to be dropped off at Kelly McCabe's office at 22 East Main. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention was we had an email, Commissioner Candelaria had an email from a gentleman who wanted to know why our stamps were upside down on our ballots. We actually don't put stamps on our ballots. The county doesn't. Our permit is printed on it by the print vendor. I'm guessing that this is an issue with the special district election at this time, And I know that they're doing their stamps one at a time, so I'm sure that it's not intentional. But I just wanted to mention that.
Correct, and I would just like to echo that for Kim and the clerk. You know, I did respond to that email last night and let the gentleman know that, first of all, we had nothing to do with the election, and secondly, we've obviously not directed anybody to turn a stamp upside down, but we've shared that. That's on our Facebook page, it's on our website. Kim, it's on your site. But, you know, it's just, people have, I call them keyboard warriors, boy, they sure don't mind sitting behind a keyboard and sending all kind of stuff out there, but just for clarification so that people understand it's a special district, we have nothing to do with it as the county, and it does go to a private attorney's office here in Cortez, so, thank you, Kim. And with that, gentlemen,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the April 19th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.